Oh. Welcome everybody to Adobe Live. My name is Doc Reed, and today we're just gonna be jumping into Illustrator, maybe some Photoshop, and build out some social media carousels, and sort of basically taking a case study of a brand and sort of breaking it down into little swipeable tidbits type of thing. So I believe there should be a link to a file that's got a couple of different formats and setups for everyone to jump into. There's a square format, portrait format, and a landscape format. Today we're going to be jumping into square just because it's able to be used in several different platforms. You got Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So I was just going to try to maximize the output on productivity of what we're going to be working on here today. So without further ado, let's jump into Illustrator. Um, so this is sort of what your document would look like that if you go to the link and download it, you can work along with us, or you can just sort of watch and jump in the chat and drop any questions, comments in there, and I'll try to keep my eye on it as we go through the day. But yeah, so like I said, square format is pretty universal across several different platforms at the 1080 by 1080. And so I went ahead and did some of the live baking and preloaded my document with some of the case studies that we're going to be looking through. So just grabbed a bunch of elements, resources, pictures, and so we're going to be building out, uh, a flow to walk through, sort of share the work that was done. This was a branding and strategy project that was done for Santana Farms, a wonderful homegrown little eucalyptus farm down in Southern California. North County, actually, just a little bit north of San Diego. Wonderful, wonderful people. And so today, we're gonna just jump in, sort of see some of the assets that were built, and then how to tell that story through, a carousel um, case study. And a couple of different ways that I wanted to sort of talk about first or up front is um, sometimes you can just do one single post and it would just be one single image. Like this right here would be your thumbnail. You'd have, your Santana Farm logo and, you're like, okay, sweet, got my thumbnail. We're ready to roll. That looks great. But a lot of times when people are checking out social media, especially Instagram, they'll hit your Instagram feed or wall or whatever. And so I'm just curious what it would look like if we have an image that goes across all three. We can set it up in Illustrator so that we've got all of our artboards set up. If you're curious about that, Shift O will open up the artboard tool. You can come up here and customize your settings and things of that nature. Something else that you can do is holding down Shift when you're in the artboard mode will allow you to click and drag and select several artboards all at once. And if you come down here into your artboards panel, um, and actually, yeah, you can arrange the panels, and that is rearrange those. So you can come in here, you can say, I just want, um, one or three columns. You want them spaced out, at 0 pixels so they butt right up against each other. You want them to flow in, this direction. Pick a direction that you're going to be working in, and it basically will slam everything together so there's no pixel gap, so that when you export these artboards, everything's going to snap together when you're swiping through carousels. So we got those set up for you already. And oh, here's another thing that I learned while I was setting this up. A lot of times if you go in to Illustrator, the artboard here, let's say we want to name this um, Santana. That's too many. And instead of clicking out and going into the next one or hitting enter, if you're still able to select the text, if you hit tab, it will take you to the next artboard. Select the type so that then you can um, add in, or if you're smart, you copy paste it, tab, hit the up arrow, go to the beginning, and you can do that for all of your artboards if you're working through things like that. So that was a fun little hack that I had just recently found out. I love it. Also, double clicking on it will do that. Double clicking here opens it up here in this, but you lose the ability to use the tab tool to navigate to the next artboard. So um, with this, the way that I was thinking about building this out, and I think it's important for anytime you're doing sort of a case study like this, or more than something that's just a single post. It's going to be important to tell a story, try to engage people on a couple of different levels, invite them in, inform them about what's happening type of thing. So I was looking at it as a way to potentially have three of these different um, posts. One would focus on just the brand, the development of the brand, sort of like how we got from A to B, and then application. And that's everything from letterhead to, the vinyl wrapped delivery trucks type of a thing. All the fun stuff that everyone goes crazy over, picking up Adobe stock, mocking up things to sort of show the client what is possible type of a thing. And it's so I think we're gonna do that unless anyone in chat has another idea to they want to throw our way. But and so what I'm thinking and how I went ahead and continued setting up the file is I just made duplicates, like again jumping into the artboard mode. Um, there we go. Selecting just the boards that we wanted, holding down Option, you click and drag, and you can make a duplicate of the 10. The 10 artboards are just there because that's the max that you can post to Instagram. You don't have to use all 10 of them. If you want to do 4 and that's going to work for your case study, then that's perfect. But I went ahead and broke them out. I've got one set up here for brand, one for development, and then one for application. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and jump into building out some of these things. I'm going to go ahead and move some of these around since I know that this is all going to be application. And one thing that I think is super helpful in thinking about um, application is the sliding scale of fundamental brand and fun brand. Like you have to be dialed in, and that's sort of what basic style guides are. They are here's the rules, the do's and don'ts that we put together, develop for when we hand off the brand to the client or their internal team so that they know like, hey, these are no-nos. These are, approved ways of using things. It's just sort of a shorthand for everyone to be on the same page. And I uh, I used to hate them. I used to hate making them because, in all honesty, let me just pull one up real quick. You've probably seen them all. Like everyone's got the, um, do not, squish, squash, put a drop shadow, change the color. Like these are the no-nos. Um, but I think if this is all that you're focusing on early on in building your brand, like here's the minimal space, the clear space, and things of that nature, like yes, those are the rules and the fundamentals. If that's as far as you go, you sort of haven't really begun to work with the brand. And so when you jump into building out some things and building out patterns and you start playing and go, I wonder how this works. Does this work? Is this pattern too busy? Is this, um, are these colors going to work? Can I use, my primary blue as a headline if I'm using it as an accent? No, you have to figure out what does and doesn't work. So I would say mocking up and going through that dreaming process and developing maybe an initial campaign to figure out what does and doesn't work with the pieces that you've developed is going to allow you to make a more informed and better brand style guide for your client to use. It'll also give you um, a leg to stand on when they say, "Hey, how come we can't do X, Y, and Z?" You can say, "Here's how that looked. Either contrast was an issue, or we ran into some, legibility, or it didn't communicate the way that we wanted, and we had spoke about in, strategy and things of that nature about how we wanted the brand to feel when people interacted with it." So, all that to say, I'm going to continue breaking these pieces out here. This more of the development type of a thing. But um, but yeah, so if you've got questions, uh no no squash, no squish on the brand. Yeah, that's number one. No, no. Um, but and also a question for the chat, like how many of you have jumped in, built out your logo, and you're like, okay, sweet. We've got it. It's locked up. It's ready to go out the door. And then you start getting into those situations like, oh man, I wish I had more of a horizontal version of the logo um, to use. And, you get into some situations where does it, need the logo to, be there? Like thinking through responsively in UX design and UI design where you've got, if it's on a web page, this may make sense. If it's on a mobile, you know, this is going to be a better fit for you. Um, but going out and then using assets to communicate, continuing to develop those brands, these are all going to be things that end up in our, the brand section here. So for starters, let's jump in and I'm going to grab a couple of these pieces here and we'll start telling the story of how we came, how it looks mocked up or building out a couple of carousels. And there's a couple of different schools of thought, I guess maybe two mainly, of what to do and how to approach um, carousels. You can use these artboards as your like rules and, abide by everything stays, in that frame, or you start playing around and you've got things that connect and go from one artboard to the next artboard and allows the intuitively the viewer to go, okay, there's more content here outside of just seeing those like swipe more pages type of a thing. So something to think about, consider when you're building out some boards and how you want the pages to flow. So think of a story, how you want to tell that story, and then also how do these elements interact with one another. So like just being more of a longer or horizontal format logo, I think it's going to be a little difficult to try to cram these all into one space. So what I'm going to do is maybe use that as a hard starting point for blending the artboards together. So got that on lock. And then we can just sort of turn on our smart guides. That's Command U. You can turn that on and off. I like it. Helps things snap into place a little bit more quickly. And everything's gonna be nice and tight in the end. So also one of the things, if you've built out a panel or swatches and patterns and things of that nature, being able to save those out as an ASE or an AI file that you can load into other documents is going to save a lot of copy paste. If you save out, let's see, I thought I had loaded it already, but it doesn't look like I did. If you Nope, that's not what I want to do. I want to open that library. Um, if you save out an ASE, that will only import your colors, I believe. I was playing around with that, but if you save it out as an AI file, that opens up everything for you to see it all. So you can import those. You got all your swatches and all your patterns right in there. So we can start building out having some fun with some of these patterns that were built. Um, and yeah, change out some of these colors if we want to show things, some of the alternate brand colors. See how things work. And I thought I grabbed a version of this that was already knocked out. So let's make one real quick. There we go. We got a one color ready to roll. So yeah, you can start building out. We're going to go ahead and replace this guy over here. So again, what we're doing is we're just sort of building out some of the elements to show off the brand, some of the patterns as we get going. And I'd love to know in the chat where you all start your carousels or building out some of these pieces, parts for your clients. How does that all go and work? And where do you start? How do you tell the story of visuals to your clients? Tell the story of where they're from, their story. That's where some of these patterns and colors all come from, is just getting to know the client through the discovery process, doing in-depth conversations with them, trying to understand, not just what the business is, but who they are as a company, who they are as people, and jumping into what is, relevant and pertinent to the work that they do and the life that they live. So um, all of these patterns actually were developed using and pulling out elements and aspects of this logo. We've got eucalyptus seeds, got eucalyptus pod, and then they create and form like a little bloom situation. And all of those elements I used and pulled out to develop the system where we ultimately land here on the final mark. So all of those patterns and things of that nature are all part of that story where we've got, called this one Honeybee. One of the partners in the company also was a beekeeper and things of that nature. So having some fun with names, San Diego Sun, and all of these are built with using the seed element of the logo. Same with this. These are seed elements that were manipulated. So they started at the heart of the brand and then sort of grew out from there. Sort of showcase a little bit, like I said, of the culture and who they are. So, but the some of the different what we can do with the brand portion here is basically sort of rehash some of the things that we've done with the style guide. Like here's the responsiveness. If we're gonna start out full horizontal logo, this is everything. By the time we get down to where it's on mobile, we don't need all this. You're not going to be able to read any of that. So let's just get it down to its simplest form for usability. And that's, I think, something that has developed here in the last like 7 to 10 years with responsive branding, where we need it to work in multiple uh, spaces and things of that nature. So thinking through those things and being able to have those assets to then start building out. Like we may not do the whole style guide in this setup, but we can at least like talk to like, here's what we did to make sure that these are responsive. Um, so, but I see some comments of do things traditionally. Was that, I'm trying to remember if that was in regards to um, building out case studies or brands or carousels. And I'm looking at I'm looking at the chat in Behance over on. So if you're on the YouTube, the comments are getting checked and viewed, and those will be there. But I had the Behance chat pulled up. Um, let's see. But yeah. So I'd love to hear what you all would put into the branding section that I'm not or that I'm skipping through. I know I've sort of jumped around from the branding to the application or development and application, things of that nature. Um, just to give you an idea of where everything came from with the building out of all of these assets. Um, I might just end up building this all in tandem as I go so that it feels cohesive in the end. Sort of like if you've got several paintings that you're working on, you work on all of them at once. Like you work on one till it gets to a spot where it needs to dry, and then you move on to the next painting until it needs to dry, and then you sort of circle back, and that way you can always continue to be working when the juices are flowing. So at least that's how I like rolling. Um, yeah, let's see. Trying to give these guys a little bit of room down here to breathe. And a lot of times, again, this goes back to storytelling. I'm really just trying to emphasize like, hey, we were intentional about the images that we selected, and we want to make sure that that comes across in the storytelling of how we present this. And, these will make good case studies for Instagram, but also like make sure to have LinkedIn and some of the other platforms in your mind and how you want to talk and showcase um, the work and your thinking. Honestly, case studies are more about showcasing your thinking and the results than they are um, look at the pretty things that I made. I think sometimes as creatives, we tend to focus more on the look what I made sort of Hank Williams and Castaways, like, look, I made fire. Look, aren't you impressed? Type of thing. See what I've done. And a lot of times we as creatives love that, but as we're trying to talk and communicate and show the value that we bring as thinkers and makers, we skip out on showcasing that thinking aspect. Uh, too often. So don't forget to do that. Don't shortchange yourself. Um, so anyhow, so that's the end of that TED Talk. Maybe we might jump back into that. um, I'd love to know how you all think about and talk to your clients about building out um, assets and a visual language that you're building for them. Like how do you all do that? Do you have a discovery session set up? Uh, Feel free to drop some. thoughts in the chat. Talk amongst yourself because I know I won't be able to see uh everything that comes through. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Alessandra, about being the case studies, you do them traditionally. Have you ever made a carousel? And I apologize if I butchered your name. Uh, got live streaming brain and letters go all wonky. Have you ever built out a an Instagram or a social case study? I have not built one out like this, and so I'm very excited to see how this comes together. So yeah, I like that. All right. And again, you can probably get into noodling things quite a bit. Uh, oh, and another thing, I don't know how many folks do this. I love working in layers in Illustrator. I usually will have type and image and text sort of on their own little layers so that I can go in, know like, hey, this is all the branding stuff, and I can just go, okay, or the background, and I can lock it in. Obviously, I dumped a bunch of things in here, so we're not quite as clean as I like, but as I work through a project, I will often move them around real quick so I can lock certain things and not have to constantly be fighting myself when I go to lock, unlock all to move things around. So um, drop any of those little um, tips in the I did not mean to do that in the chat about your workflow, how you tweak your productivity. Oh, okay. That's weird. This is the one I want. Yes. Okay. Um, and again, there are definitely different schools of thought and how much you want to type out in some of these posts. Some of it is just good information. We're gonna do X, Y, and Z. Let's scale this down. Let's try do 80% just to show things are shrinking. Do that, scale 80 as well. Do it again one more time. Um, yeah, I used to struggle and still struggle with using the grid, um, but it has gotten easier to sort of think about things from a layout perspective of um, using grids, giving everything a system and a way to work and operate in spaces. Um, allows you to sort of fast track some things in your thinking. All right, we've already got that one. Grab one I don't have. Got one of these fun ones. Yeah, grab this guy. Let's kick this over one more frame. Um, yeah, looks like we are coming up on halfway through the stream. And Yeah. So we've got things started with the building out the brand assets and things of that nature. Let's talk some, we've talked a little bit about the development. Um, for some folks, it's extremely important to see where things started and where things ended, and the thought process behind a lot of that. So being able to showcase any and all of that for your clients is helpful, in my opinion. Um, the fun thing with that's not going to work, is it? Um, the fun thing with before and afters, they can be touchy because your client has had them and worked with them and operated under and with them for years, and almost can become like a second child. Um, and so you don't ever want to just roll up into something and be like, what is this? Who made this? That puts people on guard real real quick. So being mindful about how you talk about um, their brand or current brand, and what you're wanting to do, what they liked about the old brand, what they are wanting to move away from. Um, all of those things are extremely important to have conversations with your clients while you're building these out, or building out the logo, excuse me. And so that they're clear on what they're getting, you're clear on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to save, what you're trying to, bring from the old logo. It's important. Keep those lines of communication open. All right. This is where the tongue comes out. You start noodling if you're not careful. I don't know how many of you have nervous working habits, or habits that you're not even aware that you do. You lean into your computer screen till you're like 7, 8 inches away from it. Your tongue comes out. Look like Michael Jordan, concentrating, heading the game. Um, yeah. So what I'm trying to do here is think about some of these spaces to leave some copy that I can come back through and drop in to sort of talk about why some of these decisions were made, sort of like what I'm walking and talking through currently, where it was important. Part of the reason they wanted to rebrand was that there was some similar companies in the region that had the same name. So there was a lot of like invoice issues or deliveries getting sent to the wrong warehouse type of a thing. So they're like, yeah, we need to put some distance between some of our competitors, make sure that people know who we are, and that very important. So I was super stoked to be working again with these. The client was on it. They were wanted to update some things, wanted to change some things, and they came in with goals that they wanted to accomplish, which was super, super helpful. A lot of times you come in, you're like, we just want a logo. We don't know what we want to do. We got to sit down with them and learn, like, hey, they right now they're wholesale. They want to get into work with um, some casinos, being there in the California, real close to Nevada um, portion. They wanted to make sure that, interior decorators had the ability to get a hold of them. They could help build out some uh, table arrangements and things of that nature. So they knew what they were going after and what they wanted, which was extremely helpful. Um, oh, and one other thing. Um, if you are able to get out on site and take photos with your client in their spaces and see how things work, and then be able to tell the story of um, where you're looking to take them, you can help tell the story and help them believe and see where things are going um, using these, tools that Adobe is creating. So like here, this is one of the ranch trucks. As you can see, this was on the tail end of some of the pandemic. I guess not quite out of it in some spots, but you know, Photoshop now has got the generative fill. I was able to come in, select the face. Doesn't need to be in focus, and I was able to work through some some options, variations here. This one definitely of the six that I was looking at was the best. So, use the tools to help, mock up things in your client's environment and things of that nature to help sell thing the work that you're doing and the dream that you're trying to share with them. One other thing, real quick, while we're in Photoshop, is this blend if slider. This is a lifesaver here for getting graphics to blend in with existing photos. Um, being able to allow slide around these levels to get it to feel like it's on the van. Some of those natural things that are showing up in the photograph, you can get those to bleed into the um, the work that you're doing and make it a little bit more believable. Like you get that highlight there, the top where that vinyl is gonna to wrap that metal. It just helps sell it so much better than if it was just a plain stuck on graphic. So definitely use the tools that are at your disposal. And part of the reason I was showing you the getting out on um, site with your client is being able to take pictures of them, what they're doing, and then come back and put the logo into embroidery, oops, and mock up some things to help tell their story. Like here's your packing box, but it's no longer California flowers. You've got, your own boxes that are printed and ready to roll. Um, you know, obviously when you're dreaming, go ahead and dream big and say, whoops, I lost Illustrator. Um, what's a new delivery truck look like? You want to roll up into Las Vegas with a branded truck, let everybody know where, all the amazing centerpieces are coming from. But so like I said, it's a lot of thinking through and trying to tell that story. Um, we'll go ahead and put this here towards the end of this. Um, do some storytelling with images here towards the end of this. But But yeah, um, that shortcut, if anybody's wondering how to mask shapes real quick on the fly, you grab your marquee tool, draw it over what you want, select both items, and Command 7 will merge them. Actually, I want the branded jacket in here. So, yeah. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah. I want to showcase some of the patterns in thinking that we're doing. I want to some of these. Again, part of my my process is on the fly, grabbing everything, including the kitchen sink, throw it in, and then through process of elimination, removing the sink until, okay, that's working. Sure, everyone has their own practices that they work through. I don't know how many of you are throw it all in, we'll sort it later. uh creatives. Oh, I see Peter Del Tondo is going to be hopping in after this stream. Definitely stick around and check out what they're doing with Heyo. Um if I had to guess, I'm assuming you guys are going to be talking brand and UI if I had to guess. Is that what's happening, Peter? Thanks, Peter. It was a lot of fun watching it all come together. Say it's easier or building out case studies and going the extra mile with building some of these assets and where they could use them, just giving them a couple different options or a lot of options to play with. Maybe have some things be a little bit more seasonal, like if they're rolling into the Christmas holiday season, make a little snowflake pattern. Yes, they're in Southern California. It's never gonna snow, or it's not gonna snow often unless you're up in the mountains. But like thinking through some of those things and how to let them take and inject themselves more and more into the brand with the solid pieces that you've built out for them. I don't know why it keeps turning to there we go. Solid arrow. But let's see. Get that one built out. Oh yeah, our secondary elements. And again, a lot of this is trial and error. As you're moving things around, things will work just like you want. You're like, this is exactly what I'm thinking. Also realizing you're setting stuff up for 1920 1080 presentation and you go, oh, everything's square format now. What are we gonna we're gonna shift this around to present everything. And once you get one of these established, not every case study is going to be the same. I would bet that Peter would back me up on that, but um, you get a rhythm, you figure out, okay, these are what I typically like to offer in a package for my client. And you can sort of dial in your case studies a bit and go, okay, these are things that I know are going to be needed and wanted in the final. So then you can start dropping in. You get something, whoops, you get something that works for you. You can dial the case study in a bit. So we'll do the dialing in of that here in a little bit later. Probably, or it's pretty obvious. I'm not going to finish all three of these on today's stream, but the got the tools for moving forward, and we'll be excited to post these. I'd love to see what everyone, how everyone uses these templates to build out some case studies of their own and share. So definitely tag Adobe Live when you post. Tag me as well if you. I'd love to see what you make and what how you're thinking about your process, how you're sharing with your clients, helping them tell their story to their customers. That's powerful in my opinion. If you're able to empower your client to tell the story, um, that's that's gold. So looks like we have about 7 or so minutes left. I'm gonna try to. What are we missing for the brand? Oh yeah, I keep jumping away from the patterns. Let's jump some or toss patterns into the mix. How do we want to do something different with showing off the brand? Yeah, there we go. I thought I'd had something like that. I might just grab all of this, bring it over. And again, well, if you've been building out brands and stuff for a minute, you probably have a lot of these already at your disposal. It's just a matter of being intentional about using them and not reinventing the wheel. So think about how you can do that in the future when you're building these out. Sweet, that is there. And also something to consider is what are your primary colors? Like set up a ratio so that your clients know how things work. Like these are the accent colors. So we're going to shrink those a bit. But we want the primary colors to be the deep sea, porcelain, and the eucalyptus are our primaries. There we go. I lost it for a sec. I would love to know who all else spent some time uh, naming colors to reflect the brand. Is that something that you enjoy doing? Do you work with a copywriter? Do you work with your strategist, or you just have a knack for naming colors? Super fun. I enjoy it. We're going to kick that over just so that shows up which color is the color. But I appreciate having you all as coworkers today. It's been super fun hanging out, working alongside. Hope some of the chatter was helpful, help you think through some stuff. Different way, maybe, oops, different way of thinking about things, maybe a reinforcement of some thinking that you've got. But yeah, let's be more intentional about sharing the thinking that we do with our work. I think there's a shift and a swing that's happening, and I'm all about it. Um, so yeah, I'm sure somebody out there is going, there's a better way to do those colors. Drop it in the chat so everyone will learn from my mistakes. um, yeah, sort of set up that hierarchy, and we can roll into some of these patterns. So, but anyhow, I do look forward to seeing the work everyone puts together and the thoughts that go into them. And as we rounding out some stuff, if you've got any questions or case studies that you're working on, drop your Behance links and talk about. I'd love to know what the hardest part of building a case study is in your opinion. And while you're at it, what's the thing that you love doing? It's your favorite part of building a case study. I think these ones are probably going to be a little bit more plug and play, since a lot of these are built out already. Put a logo letterhead in the mix. Oops. There we go. And as we're wrapping up, I just wanted to say thanks again for everyone for tuning in. Stick around for Peter Del Tondo and crew. They'll be up right after us. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what everybody makes. Thanks for tuning in, building a case study here in Illustrator with me. Appreciate you sticking around. And until next time, yeah, keep creating.